Have you ever scanned your relationship or maybe a past relationship and you're constantly like looking for the threat, looking for when the shoe's going to drop, what's going to happen? This does not mean that you are dramatic or that even something is necessarily wrong, but maybe at some point when it came to relationships and dating, you have had past experiences or you were taught at some age to look for the threat when that fucking shoe is going to drop. But the reality is that healthy relationships do not require you having to constantly be on alertness. It is all about the relationship green flags that you need to start looking for. So let's talk about what those green flags actually look like. Welcome to Carla Turned On, where dating and relationships get real, sex gets talked about, and the BS gets left on red. Let's get turned on. Today, I am going to be breaking down green flags in relationships, what that looks like, what to look for, and how so many people overlook these green flags, and why and how to stop overlooking those green flags, and how to actually make sure your relationship has the green flags. And then, of course, we are going to be taco about it. We are going to get in the taco section, which is all about talking about coming and orgasming. Yes, I know. Woo. But we are going to be diving into birth control. And it's like birth control. This is not sex ed, so do not worry, but saddle the F up because we are going to talk about how to protect yourself, whether you are a man or a woman and you are having sex and not wanting to have a kid right away or wanting just to protect yourself and all that good stuff that goes into that. And I'm also going to throw out there as well a little thank you for being part of Carla Turned On. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast. You can go ahead and give it 5 stars and write an awesome review. I would love that. And also, I will tell you right now, if you want to work with me in any capacity, whether it's one-on-one, my coaching program, just an Ask Me Anything, or you're looking for any guides or anything like that, you can go to the show notes and find all the information there. There's some really great stuff. Or if you want to go to carlaromo.com, you can find all that information there as well. So let's get into the green flags, baby. We talk so much about red flags. And I do think that talking about red flags is so important when it comes to relationships, because sometimes you get into a relationship with someone and there's green flags and then boom, there's the red flags. And you're like, well, I'm really holding and anchoring into what those green flags were in the beginning. And it's really confusing because now they're red. How do I decipher that? Or sometimes they're red and it's really dangerous in terms of your emotional safety, physical safety, sexual safety. And yeah, you need to look for those red flags. But we are talking about what are the green flags in these relationships and how do we actually get ourselves to a place? Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, we get ourselves to a place of not waiting for the other shoe to drop. I am guilty as charged. All right, I'm going to use myself as a little example here because I am a human being. I always was scanning for when the shoe was going to drop. And let me tell you, it dropped. It dropped a lot. And when I was waiting for that shoe to drop and preparing for it, it did not emotionally prepare me for when it actually did drop. That is just my nervous system and the way that I had processed past trauma or unprocessed past trauma or was triggered by past trauma in trying to scan for past relationships of when that threat was going to take place and I was going to be ready for it so I wouldn't get hurt and I would be on top of it and it would all be good. No, when you are in a healthy relationship and you're still doing that scan, and you're looking around, sometimes this can even lead into self-sabotage where you're looking for the threat. And so you react in a way of, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the threat. And I'm just going to react in a way of, I need to look at his phone or I need to get out of this ASAP, fight or flight, right? Freeze, fawn. Okay, but fight or flight. I need to flight. I need to get out of this. I think things are going to end. I think we should end this. It's like, whoo, okay. The green flags in emotionally safe, emotionally secure relationships are what you need to lean into. You need to look for what the reasons are of why the relationship is green, not why the relationship is red. Now, I am going to say this, it takes mental practice. So if you're like, I am always looking for the threat, I am always unsure, I don't know, and I'm trying to turn it off, but it's so hard. Of course it's so hard. Your mind is protecting itself. Your mind doesn't want you to get hurt. Your mind wants you to be able to see what's going to happen. The forecast, right? It's like you're the weather forecast person and you're like, hey, guess what? Meteorologist, that's the word. And you're like, okay, we predict in 1 week, this person's going to walk out of your life and you're never going to see him again. And you need to stay on top of it this week because when it happens, you got to be prepared so it doesn't hurt. You got to be prepared so you don't feel anything terrible, right? It's okay. That is what your mind is doing. But the reality is that is not how relationships and in real life situations play out. And especially if there are green flags. These are the 5 green flags that people miss in relationships all the time. Number 1, consistency that does not actually make you feel anxious. Okay. I get nobody's perfect. He or she, they forgot to text you back last night and you're like, oh my God, they're going to break up with me. It's over. It's done. And then they text you in the morning. They're like, I'm so sorry. I fell asleep. How's your morning going? I'm so excited to see you tomorrow night for our date. Can't wait. And you're like, oh, phew. Okay. But you played doomsday in your head. And that doesn't continue to happen because here's the key. Green flags of consistency look like accountability with them. So it's not just, oh, they're constantly texting, they fall off, but they don't acknowledge it. They fall off and they want you to feel safe and secure. So they're like, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, fall asleep, but I did. And now I'm texting you in the morning, but I'm excited to see you tomorrow night. It's going to be so fun. Even in relationships where you're living with the person, or maybe you're married and the person is consistent with every time that they're on their way home. Hey, just got done with friends. I'm headed home. Love you. See you in about 20 minutes. Great. That at least right there is showing consistent behavior that every time that they leave a place, whether it's with friends, coworkers, whether they're just at the gym doing their own thing and they're like, hey, I'm going to be back later tonight, they are talking to you and wanting you to feel safe around the fact that, hey, I'm letting you know, it's reliability. When you become consistent in relationships, you are creating a special way of having trust with someone. You are creating this place of, hey, guess what? I'm consistent here. You know you can rely on me, and we're going to do this together. And it's not just one person doing it, it's both people doing it. It creates a sense of ease and not that anxiety spike. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to hear from him when he's coming home from his time out with his friends. I don't know if I'm going to hear from her when she's on her way home from the gym because sometimes, she stays after and then she just appears, an hour late, and sometimes she doesn't, and sometimes she lets me know, and it's really confusing, right? Like that's going to cause you anxiety. Consistency always is key without the anxiety. Number 2, communication that doesn't leave you guessing. When we're talking about relationships here, when somebody is upset with you, okay, we're going to go there because conflict is so healthy in relationships. It's the repair that can make it unhealthy. So when you have conflict in a relationship, that means that the relationship is moving forward. This is an opportunity to get to know each other, to be vulnerable, to share, and to move the relationship forward. When you have conflict where there is unhealthy repair, you're going to be scanning. You might even stay mute. You might over communicate. You might feel like, oh, I'm direct, but it's a defense mechanism. I'm going to just say it now so I don't get hurt, right? There's so many ways that we do things to protect ourselves if we've been in unhealthy relationships or we have learned to look for those red flags and that threat. But when you sense there has been a miscommunication with your partner or somebody's feeling upset, you're not just sitting there awkwardly with your nervous system activated going, oh my God, they're upset. I can tell they're upset. I don't know what to do about it. What do I do? This is uncomfortable. I'm just going to go leave the house and maybe, when I come back, they'll be happy again. No, your partner comes and talks to you and says, hey, I need some time to think about this because I'm upset and I just need to cool off. I'm letting you know that like what happened earlier, I'm feeling really angry about and I need to process it a little bit, but let's talk about it later tonight. That communication right there might feel uncomfortable as hell. Oh my God, I made them mad. I need to make everything better. And that is a normal response, especially if you've been in unhealthy relationships or you have any type of attachment, trauma, all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you right now that when somebody says that to you and then they follow through that evening to talk to you about it, that is the key. They have to follow through. That creates trust and reliability and safety and security in a relationship because you're not now just sitting there hanging and like, well, I don't know. They're just upset. They're mad. I'm walking on eggshells. I don't know. Like they won't even talk to me. They're ignoring me. That communication piece can make you feel safe. Number 3, feeling relaxed instead of on edge. Hey, real quick, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want dating support, don't forget to look in the notes below where you can learn all about my guides and how to work with me. And if you want to follow me on my socials, you can find me anywhere at I am Carla Romo. Let's get turned on. Ever been in a relationship, or maybe right now you're feeling that in your relationship where you're like, constantly like, oh gosh, did I say the right thing? Okay, gotta like manage everything. Oh no, I don't know what to do. No, the green flag is when you feel relaxed. Now, this doesn't have to mean that you're in the utopia relationship. That never has conflict and never feels uncomfortable or anything like that. But even when something happens or they said something and you're like, it didn't sit right with me, you're not sitting there overthinking, oh, we need to break up, we need to break up. You feel a sense of ease. And you feel that with that person too. Anytime that there has been any discussions that you haven't gotten along in certain ways, anytime that there has been any type of anger towards somebody or sadness towards somebody or upset or disappointment toward the other person. You're not feeling that sense of being on edge, those walking on eggshells. I have to manage. I now have to manipulate the situation to keep myself safe. Those are red flags. The green flags are looking at your partner and saying, damn, I feel bad. I'm sorry. I did overstep. Like, I really appreciate your communication and talking with me about this. I recognize my part. I'm sorry. Like, that wasn't cool that I did that. But you're not sitting there on edge. Oh my God, they're going to end it right now with me. The relationship is over. This is going to be it. This is the end all be all. And number 4, conflict gets repaired. This is so big because when you are looking at conflict, and I know I was sharing this earlier, you need conflict to move the relationship forward. But what healthy repair looks like, taking ownership, talking in I statements. Okay, we're going to actually back the F up because taking ownership does not look like I'm mad at you that you did XYZ. I'm sorry. I know it's all my fault. And then you're using that as a way to try to manipulate the situation. I'm not calling you an abuser. I am not saying that you're a manipulative person, but that is manipulation, trying to get some kind of outcome, right, from the other person. You're trying to manage, oh, I'm so sorry, just to make it go away. However, it looks like owning your part. It's okay if the person comes to you, your partner comes to you, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, comes to you and is like, guess what? That really upset me. And when you did this, this, and this, and you can be like, I'm really sorry. My intention is never to upset you. Like, I actually feel really bad that you got so upset about that. If I knew that, I wouldn't have said XYZ or I wouldn't have done that. What can I do? What is there that I can do that we can, move past this? What is it that I can do to make this situation feel better? Or next time, what can I do differently? Like, I'd never want to upset you that way. The idea during conflict is not to point your finger. Okay. And if we lived in a utopia, nobody would point their fingers. Okay. The idea isn't to constantly point your finger. You did this. You messed up. You would give your partner the benefit of the doubt. I do this all the time in my marriage. I say to my husband, I really know that I'm laughing right now because this example was like kind of hilarious. He was leaving for a trip and he had left dishes in the sink. And we have a certain system of like the dishes in the sink, and he was running late. And I was like, look, I know you didn't mean to leave the dishes in the sink because he wasn't going to be back for a few days. So those dishes now were mine. And he is usually so good about following through and doing the dishes. He just was running late. And I was like, look, I know you didn't mean to leave those dishes in the sink. However, I feel annoyed because now I'm left to do them. And what did he say? He wasn't like, oh, okay, well, you whatever, who cares? You can just do it, or got defensive or anything like that. He was like, oh gosh, I feel so bad. I'm really sorry. And 100%, like, I did not mean to leave them for you. I was rushing and didn't even notice that I left them. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's not somebody who I think is trying to torture me with dishes. I think, if anything, he mismanaged his time. We're all human beings and forgot to do them, forgot that they were there, apologized, took accountability. But then I didn't hold it in because I wasn't wanting to fester resentment over the weekend while he was away. And we talked about it. And I kept the statements of I on myself. The conflict repair was about my feelings, giving him the benefit of the doubt. And then the important part was that he acknowledged and he listened and he heard. And guess what? There was nothing to be done because I ended up having to do the dishes. So it wasn't like I was going to protest and be like, guess what? I will leave those dishes for you to do when you get back. No, that's keeping score. I acknowledged, hey, I'm going to let you know that this bothers me, but I am going to go and do the dishes because we're a team and that's how we work and nobody's perfect and we're human and we're figuring this out together. So always using I statements and giving the other person the benefit of the doubt, green fucking flags. Always, always, always. And the other person taking accountability. And number 5, not overthinking the relationship. This one. Okay, I'm just going to be real with you. It falls into attachment styles. So if we look at a secure attachment, you are feeling secure in the relationship. 2 feet in, both people aren't worried when conflict arises or when you're communicating that somebody's not going to be honest or truthful. You feel good about it. Anxious attachment is sort of the anxiety, preoccupied thinking about the relationship. Oh my God, is this it? How do I make sure that we're close? The other person feels like they're pulling away. Oh my God, they're going to leave. Oh God, are they cheating? Oh no, they're going to. It's the anxiety. The avoidant attachment in this would be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I need my independence. I feel like my partner's smothering me. I don't feel like I get to be myself. I feel like, right, like all of those attachment style stuff coming out. And then, of course, disorganized, as I always like to say, anxious and avoidant had a baby. But the key here is you're not constantly overthinking the relationship. Even if you are an avoidant or you are anxious attachment or you're disorganized, the baby, then the idea is that if you're in a secure relationship, you aren't having this constant up and down push and pull. Secure relationships, you don't overthink it. You feel good in it. You're like, okay, and this doesn't mean that you might not ever break up or you may break up in life. It doesn't mean any of that. You actually probably, to be honest, in a secure relationship, you recognize you could break up or you recognize divorce is on the table in the sense of if I break these boundaries that we have established to keep the relationship safe and secure, there are consequences to it. It's not an ultimatum, but you have this way. It's a green flag to be able to say, hey, cheating. Anything with cheating, that is a deal breaker. Or to say, hey, anything with abuse, calling me names, putting me down, criticizing me constantly, any of those things, that is a deal breaker for me. Those are important conversations to have and to be able to uphold in a relationship. That's what makes it feel secure. That's what makes a relationship feel safe and not have you overthinking and second guessing. Are we in? Are we out? Are we in? Are we out? A green flag in these relationships make you feel, yeah, we're grounded. We're 2 feet in. We're doing this. Oh yeah, we're going through a tough season, but it's only a season. We're going to get through it together versus, oh God, are we going to make it through? Is this actually going to work? I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see. And I'm just going to be real with you because I keep it real on Carla Turned On. That green flags can feel boring AF sometimes, especially if you're used to intensity or you're waiting for the intensity or something just doesn't feel right. It just kind of feels like it's just coasting. There isn't this passion or this, excitement that you're just like, oh my gosh, that is normal to not experience when you are in a healthy, secure, safe relationship dynamic. Because when you have these green flags, yeah, shit happens. Nobody's perfect. Conflict arises, and you might not even show up and do it perfectly. You might get defensive. And then all of a sudden you're like, shit, conflict within conflict. Not only do I have to own up for what I was upset about, but now I have to own up for how I reacted in it. And the green flag is taking accountability sometimes when we're not perfect and we get triggered and old patterns or old wounds or trauma surface and get projected onto your partner in the relationship. Okay. I just want to be very clear here, but being able to take accountability and say, oh, I need to go back to my coach. I need to go back to my therapist. I need to work on this piece again. I work with so many clients. Okay. I have a client and she has had a lot of trauma in her past. She's worked with therapists around the trauma piece and healing. And I always say that unless it is a licensed therapist, you should not be working with coaches who are healing your trauma. Okay, that is with a licensed therapist. But I had a client and she's been through a lot of past trauma and she got really triggered in her relationship. And she was like, hey, Carla, I know I haven't been working with you for the last 6 months, but can I come back for a couple of sessions? I was like, sure, what's going on? And what had happened is she and her partner got into a conflict and it really triggered her abandonment. And all of a sudden, she blew up at him because she was feeling really defensive. And when I say blow up, we're not talking about she cusses him out or explodes or throws things for intimidation or anything like that. But she yelled at him. She went off, a little bit of this, well, you keep doing this and it's making me mad. And I don't understand why you just can't figure out how to make it right. And you're always saying this, this, and this. And then after she was like, oh my God, that was like old behavior. What's going on? So she apologized to her boyfriend, came back to coaching, worked with me on what those triggers were and how to safely repair so that she's not acting out that way. Or when she starts to feel those feelings come on, that she can choose a different type of behavior or a different type of pause that maybe she can kind of be aware of moving forward. So here's the deal. We're not perfect. Sometimes we do get triggered, but the idea is that we're taking responsibility. We're not putting it on our partner to heal or fix, and we're recognizing our own patterns and getting help so that we can show up fully and be the fucking green flag in these relationships. So remember, if it feels peaceful, but it doesn't feel that up and down, you're probably in a really fucking green flag relationship. So keep going. And now, speaking of feeling safe and supported, let's talk about talking about coming in orgasms, birth control. Birth control. Like I said, this is not sex ed. Oh my God, you guys have sex ed back in the day. We had this really interesting group that came into the school system. I don't know if they ended up suing or what they were doing, but they came in and they basically tried to stop talking about certain levels of birth control. And I think the school system ended up having to change their curriculum, which is nuts to me because I understand some people are religious and don't want to use birth control. And hey, that is totally fine. Like if that's your thing, do it. But the reality is not everybody's religious and following these things. And people need to protect themselves, especially in relationships. Or if you're dating, you need to protect yourself in dating or sleeping with people or whatever. I will say this, when it comes to birth control, you and your partner need to have a conversation about it. I do not care whether you guys are newly in a relationship, whether you guys are married, whether you just had a kid or I don't know, whatever, wherever you're at, you got to have the talk about what we want and what we don't want and where are we in terms of our comfort level. I will say that there are certain forms of birth control that don't work as well. And this comes down to, okay, now we sound like we're in health class, but I was going to say there's certain percentages in terms of using condoms over the pill, over the IUD, over the pull out method. Okay. Pull out method. I'm going to tell you right now, like percentage wise is not looking too hot, but I will say that being able to pick for yourself, being able to go to the doctor and talk about what options work best for you is going to be key here. The other thing too, I think that really should just be said is, for example, women with hormonal birth control pills, there's been a lot of push, apparently, a lot of negative health people out there saying, and when I say health people, this is going to be controversial. We're going to leave it at some people have been saying, I'm like, this is going to be controversial. Everyone's like, go there, Carla, go do it. Come on. I'm going to be fucking real with you. There's a lot of misinformation out there around birth control. It is healthy, keeps people safe. There, of course, are risks, and that only belongs between you and your doctor. That's it. It belongs between you and your doctor. And if something doesn't feel right, it's okay to explore. Some women hate birth control pills. I can tell you, I, for years, was on birth control pills and oh my gosh, my hormones I never quite felt like myself. But there's other non-hormonal options for women as well. You can use condoms, men. Okay. And here's another thing I'm going to say right now. A lot of men will be like, oh, condoms. And I know this because my friends and I talk about these things where men will pressure women. And I'm not saying this is all men. And dude, if you're listening and you're like, oh gosh, I've done this, it's just something to think about here. But there have been many times where I've talked with friends and they talk about their sexual partners in relationships. You know, they don't want to be on birth control, but they need to use condoms, but their partner won't use a condom because it's not comfortable for him and things like that. And here's the deal is, okay, if it's not comfortable for him, then you got to protect yourself. But then that falls again on the woman to protect herself. This is why it has to be talked about. Okay. Here are 3 steps of talking about birth control. Number 1, have a conversation about what would happen if somebody got pregnant. Honestly, that is number 1. Have the conversation around if I got pregnant or if you got pregnant, if a dude's talking to a woman, if you got pregnant, how are we going to deal with that? Is this something where are we ready to have kids right now? And if we're not ready and you got pregnant or I got pregnant or whatever, what options look like for us? I am 100% pro-choice. If you are pro-life, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Here's the thing though, as a woman, you should be able to have safe options and choices for you to make with your doctor. You got to think about the financial side, whether you're emotionally ready, whether you have the capacity in terms of where you're living right now, career-wise. There's a lot of factors into this that play a part, okay? So talking about what that would look like, the realities of it. And sometimes people are like, no, we would decide to keep the baby. Okay, so what would that look like? Number 2 is have a conversation around contraceptives and what birth control would work for you or not work for you. That is also very big here. So if somebody's like, well, I don't like condoms or I don't like hormonal pills, what other options, right? Talking about this openly with your partner is going to be number 1 and it's going to be key. And then number 3, I am going to say this, but when you go to have sex and in the moment you are excited and whatever, you have to remember, whether you're on the pill and you forgot the pill, whether you have condoms and you're using condoms and you forgot condoms, you need to hold a level of responsibility and talk about, okay, when we're in the moment, how do we make sure that we are protected and that we are safe? I know maybe this ended up fucking sounding like sex education class, but the reality is we don't always talk about these things with partners. Sometimes actually not even sometimes, a lot of times when we are in relationships, we just default as, oh, it's my responsibility. No, when you are in a relationship with somebody and you are dating them and having sex with them, or honestly, not even a relationship, if you're single right now too, and you're having sex with somebody, it should be both of you guys talking about this. This should not just be a one size fits all, no pun intended. This should all be about what is working for the relationship and what is best for both people here. That is going to be so freaking key here. So at the end of the day, remember those 3 things and talk about birth control, baby. Loved this episode? Rate it 5 stars, hit that subscribe button, baby, and leave a review. Do you want to work with me? Grab my dating courses, apply for my coaching at carlaromo.com or find it all in the show notes, and give me a little follow at I am Carla Romo on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Catch you next time and stay tuned. Carla Turned On is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not a substitute for therapy. For professional support, please reach out to a licensed mental health provider.